Hi, I'm Pam and I'm here to talk about video games. A couple weeks ago, I picked up the new indie roguelite game Children of Morta. It had fast and fun gameplay and characters with different playstyles to choose from. The enticing story was drip-fed to me after each death I suffered, encouraging me to continue playing rather than feel discouraged. I was having a lot of fun. But then I opened up the game's codex, wanting to read a letter I had found in a dungeon. The text was tiny. So tiny. Sitting in my bed about 12 feet away from my 60-inch TV, I could just make out the words, but I had to strain my eyes, squint at it. After a sentence or two, my eyes felt tired. I went into the game's options, hoping to be able to increase the size of the UI or the text, but no. There were no options to control that aspect of the game. Children of Morta is not the first game I've had this issue with. It was just the most recent one when I started writing the script. A month earlier, it was Bard's Tale 4 that gave me this problem. Most of the game was fine, but on the skill selection screen, the descriptions were too small to read. In the summer, it was Void Bastards, where all of the text on the crafting screen was too tiny, and all in caps for some reason. Currently, it's Outer Worlds, with its small subtitles, minuscule menu, itty-bitty instruction text, and crummy color contrast in item descriptions to boot. It's 2019, and accessibility is something that we're ostensibly becoming more aware of. So why does it seem like text size and readability issues are more of a problem in games than ever? The 7th generation of consoles is when text size first became a real problem. The Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 supported 1080p high-definition video output. The higher the resolution, the smaller the text could be while still being clear. In earlier generations, at lower resolutions, text had to be of a certain size or it would look fuzzy. The first time I remember text size and overall readability being a problem was in 2006. Dead Rising on the Xbox 360, billing itself as the first truly next-generation title, was developed exclusively for high-definition TVs. If you played it on a standard def TV, the in-game text and subtitles were not only tiny, but also blurry. It was bad enough that Capcom issued a response to the widespread complaints. However, the response was basically, "Suck it up, Buttercups, welcome to high def." Even if you had a high def TV though, the text was incredibly small and hard to read from any distance, like the distance between your couch and the TV. In the 8th generation of consoles, when many games can now be experienced in 4K, this problem is only getting more widespread. Game developers seem to be set on making any text as eye-straining as possible, or, more likely, they probably just aren't thinking about it. Developers and QA, no matter what platforms they're making games for, are most likely doing their work on a large computer monitor 1.5 to 2 feet away from their faces. At this distance, text sizes generally aren't an issue. I can attest to the fact that when I worked in QA, though this was quite a while ago, back in the 6th console generation, this was how we tested. There was no test case to try things out in a more realistic setup for playing a console. But it really should be a necessity. Accessibility and user experience matter. Making games playable and comfortable to play helps not just the players, but also the industry at large. The goal should be to make games as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. This includes a wide range of things, of which I'm just focusing on a very small, pun intended, part for now. But if this is a topic of interest to you, or if you're developing a game, please visit GameAccessibilityGuidelines.com, which has checklists, advice, and best practice examples of how to make your game accessible. So let's talk about the benefits of having appropriately presented in-game text. The most obvious benefit is that proper subtitling helps those with hearing impairments to know what's being said. But you may also rely on subtitles if your house is noisy or people are sleeping and you need the volume low. They can be helpful for people for whom English isn't their first language and text is easier to understand than voice. Some people just like to have subtitles on. And when it comes to text in general, having properly sized, readable, and legible text helps not only those with vision impairments, but also situational factors, like having a smaller TV or a setup that requires you to be further away from the screen than is ideal. People with dyslexia or other cognitive issues can have problems reading smaller or over-stylized fonts. Plus, people are playing games at all ages. Toss us old-timers a bone. We're already facing down our bodies betraying us and not working like they used to.
Getting this right will help a lot of people.
Let's start with subtitles. I'm not going to say that getting these right is easy. There are a lot of consideration to making great subtitles. But this is an area where game developers can lean on already established standards in film and television subtitling. Some things to consider. Size. The subtitles need to be big enough that people can actually see them. Design. They should use a simple sans serif font that is clear and easy to read, and don't use all caps. Quantity of text. There shouldn't be too much text on the screen. There should only be 2 lines of text presented at a time, and it should not span the entire width of the picture. Most subtitle guidelines recommend a maximum of 42 characters per line. Contrast also needs to be considered. White text is standard, and a thin black border can help. But when the background is bright, that can still be difficult to see. A dark transparent box around the subtitles can help with this. Speakers need to be identified if it's not visually obvious who's talking, and essential sounds need to be visually represented in some way. Ideally, there are options so players can choose what works best for them. For example, in Control, you can select the subtitle size, whether you want the subtitle background, and if you want to see speaker names. It's also good to include text color and contrast options.
A number of games get to this part. They have good, readable subtitles and provide the players with some options. But then they completely forget about the rest of the in-game text. Subtitles are essential, but only used by a portion of the audience. Menus and UI, on the other hand, are used by everyone, and the text here can be very, very small.
It's jarring to see nice, easily readable subtitles, then go into a game's menu and not be able to make anything out. Control, as I just mentioned, does offer good subtitle options, but the text on loading screens and descriptions of abilities in menus stays tiny. Death Stranding's subtitles look nice, good size, good font, not too many words on screen at a time. But then you go into a menu, and how am I supposed to read this from across the room? Gears of War 5, according to the accessibility-focused game site Can I Play That, completely nailed the experience for deaf and hard-of-hearing players with their visual representation of dialogue and sound. But it still has tiny text for objectives and prompts on screen. Telltale games let you make the subtitles nice and big, but when a dialogue prompt comes up, that text is half the size. Big budget games like Witcher 3, Dragon Age Inquisition, and the new God of War failed with both their subtitles and UIs. Playing Witcher 3 was a hassle for me because I couldn't read anything in the menus. Going through inventory or trying to craft was a nightmare. Inquisition failed on both the text size and the design. It was tiny, all in caps, and used a fancy serif font. The perfect recipe for people not being able to read anything. And then there were these loading screens. Oof. I can understand games wanting to have fancy fonts to match their settings like Inquisition did, but options should be given for people to change it if they find it hard to read. Dead Cells does a good job with this, allowing you to choose between a pixelated font that fits the game or one that's easier to read. As much as games are often thought of as being mostly about action, most of them also include a lot of text. Accessibility needs to be built in from the ground up when designing menus, user interfaces, and other in-game text. A later patch to fix text size is better than nothing, but this has to happen so often, you'd think some learning from others' mistakes would happen.
Immersion is something that often gets brought up as a counter to wanting bigger text in games. The argument is that when text is small and unassuming, the player will be immersed, while bigger text taking up more of the screen can ruin that. But you know what really breaks immersion? Not being able to read the text on screen. Having to squint your eyes every time you open the menus. Eye strain. Having to get up and get closer to the screen so you can make out what it says. So I guess the point of this video is make games accessible, make text size bigger, give players options, then we can all play games and have fun.
If you want to see more of my personal gaming hangups, watch my video where I question what is an RPG, or check out another of my videos. I also have a Patreon if you want to support what I'm doing here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.